Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to this space. It's really good to have you all here today. So, we're going to be having a conversation about the very controversial water bill. I believe most people here, if not everyone, must have read that very interesting article written by our own David and another very top investigative journalist, Mr. Ibanga Isinya. And I posted the article alongside this space, and I hope everyone here has read it. So there is something that really caught my eye about the bill. This bill has been so very controversial that it has been repeatedly thrown out of the National Assembly, and it makes it illegal to engage in any water-related activity, such as fishing, sand dredging, land reclamation, borehole drilling, and so on and so forth, without a license from the federal government. And again, so many analysts have said that if this bill is passed into law, the implication is that millions of people, mainly in the South, whose livelihood depends on water, will be forced to pay dearly for their own daily activity on these water resources. So we are here today to discuss the implications of this bill. And we have with us co-hosting with me today our own David. Hello, David. Good to have you here. How are you doing today?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So how we're going to do this space is we're going to pass the mic over to David to, tell us a little more about this space and about the water bill and the implications, after which we'll pass the mic around to everyone who wants to make a contribution or ask questions. I also have Mr. Ibanga is senior here. I will bring him up shortly because him and David wrote this article. So over to you, David. You have the mic.
Let me just have one more minute. So I don't know, maybe you want to bring up Banger first.
Okay, that's fine. That works just fine. So, Mr. Ibanga, good to see you here. I've invited you to come up here and join us on stage. So, please do accept my invitation, sir. I also have my other co host, Bishop, here with me. I've sent you the invite. Please do well to accept. And I welcome everyone here today. Service Culture, Priscilla, you're a wonderful person. I see you here. Numero uno, Lastborn, Olawumi, every single person who has tuned on to this space today. So please do well to share this space on your timeline, retweet about this space. Let people come in here and join us. And if you're having issues requesting for the mic, please do well to leave the space and return. You will be able to request. So hello, Bishop. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm okay. Just trying to get a hold of myself for the breaking news. But that's for another time. But I'm good. I'm fine. Thank you very much, Bells. Hi,
Yeah,
Dave. How
well,
are you doing?
David will not be able to speak now a little bit later. So, Mr. Ibanga, good to see you here. Good evening, sir. How are you doing today? Mr. Ibanga?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you, Pels. Thank you, Bishop. Yesterday, I got a call from a top member of the National Assembly, and you don't receive calls from those people easily because sometimes even when you call them to ask for information, request for information about what's happening, they will not pick or they will not oblige you. But yesterday I woke up with a call from this human being and he was alarmed. He told me that the federal government or the government is mobilizing lawmakers from the northern part of the country so that during plenary tomorrow, where the National Assembly, particularly the House of Representatives, is going to consider the 2023 appropriation, they will represent the water bill 2022 and put it through accelerated hearing and possibly pass it into law alongside the budget. Now, his fear was that majority of the members from the South, and who are also mostly Christians, are already out of Abuja, and most of them are out of the country on the Christmas and New Year Christmas and New Year festivities. And that if they succeed in bringing this, then they would pass that bill in an accelerated manner, and there would be nothing they would do at the end of the day. So he said that there is something very fishy about what is happening, and they're afraid that a lot of their members are out of the country. Now, let me give you context to this bill. In 2017, that was the first time this obnoxious bill was introduced. They call it National Water Resources Bill. And the bill at that time and now sought to transfer the control of water resources from the state, the federal government. At that time, there was a huge outcry. And remember, at that time, the issue of the header, the Fulani headsmen and farmers had was exacerbating, and there were clashes and killings, but at the subliminal level in many parts of the country, especially in the Middle Belt, Benue, Taraba, Nasarawa. I remember I had in 2014, 2015, I did a story when I was the senior editor with Premium Times, Nigeria's unreported killing fields. And I documented the deaths in 3 states. That was Nasarawa, Benue, and Taraba State, and then a little bit of Plateau. And so, because of the understanding that this bill was meant to donate our water bodies, especially in the South and in most southern parts of northern Nigeria, like if you go to southern Kaduna, that's where you have water. You go to southern Gombe, you have water. Southern Niger, you have water. So those are the areas that have the almost water all around the year. So, and the headers who come within Nigeria and from all over the world, because of what they called grazing routes, which was created. And you begin to wonder about what grazing routes should be in private communal lands or lands owned by communities and people. You cannot have a free way to farm anywhere in Nigeria. You can just carry your hoe and your shovel and move to any part of Nigeria and start farming and say there's the farming route. But they created a grazing route and without consulting with anybody. I think part of the colonial experiment, I don't know why that happened, because like in my state, Akwa Ibom, they said there was a grazing route. Who created it? Who gave them the land? You can't just walk into anybody's land. And so because of fear of a similar thing in the water sector, Nigerians shouted and shouted and shouted, and the bill was thrown out. Now, but in 2020, the bill was brought again and represented, not presented, introduced as a fresh bill, but represented so that they will continue from where they had stopped. And it was introduced by the then chairman of the House Committee, House of Representatives Committee on Business and Rules, as an executive bill. It was not an independent bill again. It came in 2020 as an executive bill. And that's why people are afraid that initially in 2017, when it first appeared, it was privately sponsored by a member of the House of Representatives. Then in 2020, it came as an executive bill. And the faulty manner by which the bill was introduced, showed that there was a a wrong motive by the sponsor. Currently, I mean in 2022, the bill was reintroduced by a member from Katsina, the chairman of the House Committee on Water Resources. Most of the chairmen of committees on water resources and ministers of water resources have always come from the north. And every action they have taken in that sector has always favored one part of the country. I can tell you the Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry, all these organizations are headed by people from a certain part of the country. And the services are largely like 80% tilted to one part of the country. You know, Bank of Agriculture, you know what they are doing. And you know how all of us from the country, especially from down south, we know that we don't feel the impact of what these government establishments are doing. But if you go to the north, and those of us who have lived in the north also, we know that this is lopsided. Now, water, for those who know, is a very important resource, both for Nigerians in the north and in the south. But largely, while the north has arable land everywhere, like you go to Niger, you go to Benue, you go to Plateau, you see land. What the southern part of the country, especially the coastal areas, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, have is water. And people fish. Their livelihood depends on that. A lot of things. They dredge gravel. In fact, growing up, I was also involved in dredging gravel, local artisanal dredging. And that is what supports us, because we do not have the kind of land they have in the north. And then government is not regulating. Government has regulated the land and put it in the hands of the state governors. Now water, which is a free gift of nature, is going to be regulated. They want to regulate it. And the fear is that just like they created the grazing routes without consulting anybody, without recourse to owners of community, the federal government might be trying to take over all the water bodies across the country and can donate those water bodies to whoever they want at whatever condition without input. And in fact, you cannot even sue the commission that is created under this bill. Those who know have insisted that this bill is against the Land Use Act, which is part of the 1999 Constitution as amended. And that if this bill goes through, then there is going to be a constitutional crisis, and it will lead to a more wider problem, a large-scale problem than we have with the herders and the farmers. Now, it is not going to be between the herders and the farmers, the herders and the fishermen, the herders and those who own fish ponds. You don't have fish ponds in most part of the north, except where you have Lake Chad in Borno, and it's just Lake Chad. So, but down south, because there's water everywhere, you have people with fish ponds and everything. Just like these guys, herders, will take their cattle into people's farm to graze their cattle. They will take their cattle into people's ponds to drink, to water their cattle, their animals, and not they will kill you if you dare, because at that time they will tell you that water belongs to the federal government, and we cannot, for any reason, succumb to that level of impunity. And so immediately I heard about this, I started working on it, and in fact I did not sleep, trying to call everybody that I needed to call to ensure that this story comes out today. And so that is where this is. And when I spoke to some persons, including Sheikh Husani from the north, I needed a very vibrant and vocal person from the north. He said, this is wrong. That the fact that they have always been trying to do this. Each time they introduce this bill, they want to do it surreptitiously. They would want to do it illegally. They want to hasten and get it passed just by hooks and crooks. And so everyone who has spoken on this bill has condemned it, except those who were supposed to really speak on the motive behind this, but they kept quiet. I think I've provided a little bit of context, and I'll yield the mic.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, sir, for unpacking that for us. That made it a whole lot easier to understand. We really appreciate that. So, moving on, we have a lawyer here with us, Baron. I will pass the mic over to Baron to tell us more on this, and then we'll start passing the mic around to everyone who wants to make a contribution or
I'm not, just by the way, I'm actually able to speak now.
Okay, yes. So before we go over to Baron, you can have the mic for as long as you want, David. Over to you.
Right. Yeah, it won't be long anyway. I think Ismail Banga has already pretty much covered the most important points. What I just wanted to add was some points from the analysis of this bill that I brought up 2 years ago, so people can see exactly in very sort of minute detail how this bill is dangerous, right? So it's not just something that some people said, right? So anyway, before I even get into that, something I'm going to point out with regard to what Ibanga mentioned about grazing routes, something that somehow has not been covered at all. Somehow nobody has spoken about it. Nobody has commented about it in the media. And they've allowed the people in power to get away with is the fact that when you have a minister of water resources who is so concerned with this quote unquote grazing routes that nobody consulted the owners of the land regarding, somebody just sat somewhere and said that there's something called a grazing route and it's passing through my land and didn't ask my opinion about it. And somehow that compels me to suffer an economic loss anytime someone decides to march their cattle through my land, as nonsensical as that is. Now, where you have a minister of water resources who is convinced that that is some sort of reasonable and workable solution to preserve the economic mainstay of the nomadic Fulani culture, which is cattle grazing. It's also the case that this Minister of Water Resources made a promise in 2017 that by 2019, the Dastin Hausa Dam, which was to be located in Adamawa State, would have been finally built. The dam that was supposed to be built since 1980, right? And if you're familiar with the story behind the recent flooding in Nigeria, you would know about the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon and how whenever the Lagdo Reservoir gets full and they have to open the dam, the flood water comes downstream into Nigeria, and then that's how we suffer that terrible flooding we suffer like pretty much every year, right? Now, according to the original agreement that was signed between Nigeria and Cameroon, after the Lagdo Dam was built, Nigeria was supposed to build a dam on its own side of the border called the Dasin Hausa Dam in Adamawa State. That dam was supposed to irrigate 150,000 hectares of agricultural land and generate about 300 megawatts of hydroelectric power. That 150,000 hectares of agricultural land was spread out across 3 states. So Adamawa, Taraba, and Benue. So basically, what should have happened, because this is fresh water that we're talking about, it's river water. So what should have happened is that this dam should have been built. And then as a result of the building of this dam, artificial irrigation should have been created across 150,000 hectares spanning 3 Nigerian states, which would have created more than enough opportunity for all the so-called cattle herders to graze their cattle in a settled fashion, right? So the whoever they are, whether it's their association or the state government or whoever, can actually purchase that land, that freshly irrigated land, right, and settle them there. and then they can actually have a proper settled lifestyle, ranched settlements, which is the ultimate solution for all of this, because you really cannot have people marching cattle across the Sahel in the year 2022. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So that's what should have been done. Somehow, he was never held accountable for the fact that that promise he made in 2017 never came to fruition. After 2022, we still suffered that horrible annual flooding because that dam has still not been built. That dam still only exists on paper, has not been built. So somehow, when you have a situation where it's possible to irrigate even the arid parts of the north, if only a single piece of infrastructure or a few pieces of infrastructure like that can be built, and you have Minister of Water Resources that is not interested in doing that, but rather is now talking about grazing routes, which is like a total red herring in the first place. Then questions need to be asked: what exactly is this person's motivation? Is this person really concerned about preserving, the ability of people to earn money by raising cattle? Is that what this is really about, or is there something else? And when you look at it with just a logical mind, it becomes very obvious that this is a better solution here, and this has been completely ignored and sidelined. And instead, they seem to be pursuing this very sort of this very illogical, very inefficient solution for cattle grazing. So why would they want to do that? And the only reasonable explanation is possible to reach is that this isn't really about cattle herding or raising cattle or maintaining some people's economic livelihood. No, really what this is about is expansionism. It's about land grabbing. Now, let me go into a bit of a technical analysis of what is in the bill, so people can sort of understand exactly what this bill seeks to create. So the first thing is that, as Isine already mentioned, the states in Nigeria currently have authority under the Land Use Act to regulate their own the water bodies that exist within the states. But what this bill seeks to do is that it seeks to create something called the Water Resources Regulatory Commission, a new regulatory agency, which is obviously part of the federal government, which then usurps this power from the states, right? So instead of devolution of power, right, instead of decentralization, which we all agree is the way forward for a very plural society like Nigeria, some people are rather trying to centralize everything even further into Abuja. And what this regulation, the main point of this regulation is that all surface water and groundwater, so in other words, whether it's rivers, whether it's streams, whether it's boreholes, aquifers, all water above and under the ground essentially belongs to an agency in Abuja, which decides what to do with it and how. Anyone who wants to make use of water in Nigeria in any way has to obtain a license from this agency. So in other words, how we usually make a joke about how the government would tax us for breathing air if they could. They're probably a step closer to doing that, because now the plan is to tax you for using water, which is a basic unit of survival for all organic life, water. Right. So whether you're a fisherman, whether you're whether you're a fish farmer, whether you're a sand dredger, whether you're a borehole driller, whether you're a residential user, whatever it is that you use water for, you have to apply for a license from some agency in Abuja now, according to what this bill seeks to put into place. Now, let me go into what's sorry, I'm trying to scroll down to the most important bits that I'm trying to highlight now. Right, so section 153 of this bill states that there's a proposed water supply, sanitation, and hygiene fund. So if you're familiar with the so-called WASH framework, if you're in civil society, you have heard of water supply, sanitation, and hygiene, which is abbreviated as WASH. So under the guise of trying to fund Nigeria's WASH goals by, I think, the year 2050 or so, this regulatory agency seeks to extract a new form of rent from Nigerians to fund something called to fund the water supply, sanitation, and hygiene fund, which is going to be funded by federal government allocations, funding from state governments, external loans and grants, and then quote unquote special taxes and levies. So in other words, what has been opened up now is a new range, a whole new range of exploitation and corruption, because how exactly money is going to be flowing into this fund is not even well defined. So according to the bill, it just states that the agency has the power to impose special taxes and levies. What exactly these taxes and levies are is not stated, right? And it's very important to understand that whenever you are reading through proposed Nigerian legislation and you see any type of clause or what's the word I'm looking for? Any clause or anything included in the bill that isn't very clearly defined, that isn't explained with a great deal of clarity. Wherever there's any ambiguity in Nigerian legislation, you should be very afraid, because what that ambiguity does is that it creates an opportunity for the bill to be for the law to be enforced selectively, right? It creates an opportunity for arbitrage, so you should be afraid of it, right? So anytime there's wording in legislation that isn't clearly defined, where you just see things like special taxes and levies, and it's not defined what these things are, you should assume that this can be anything. So special taxes and levies can be that somebody can wake up on the wrong side of their bed one morning and just decide that they're going to issue some new tax based on something they dreamt of, and it will actually be legal, and you won't be able to do anything about it except the National Assembly steps in, which is what happens all the time in Nigeria, by the way, where like all that power is misused, like all sorts of new regulatory hurdles are enacted like almost on a weekly basis, and everything is perfectly legal because the legislation that created the bodies that wield this power allowed them to wield this power in a very ambiguous way, because the legislation doesn't clearly define what exactly it is that these powers are. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if I think this is section 27 and 29. I'm going to read it out. It says the commission may carry out any of its functions in association with any person or authority as may be considered necessary for the efficient performance of functions under this bill, including delegation of management and administrative functions to the private sector under a contractual arrangement. The commission may enter into contracts or partnership with any company, firm, or person which, in the opinion of the commission, is intended to facilitate the duties specified in this bill. What you just heard is a very, very, very long-winded and legalistic way of saying that this commission is empowered to award contracts without going through a public sector procurement process. So it says the commission may enter into contracts or partnerships with any company, firm, or person which, in the opinion of the commission, is intended to facilitate the duties specified in this bill. So wherever you see that phrase, in the opinion of the commission, what that simply means is that the commission has the sole power to decide who it awards contracts to and on what basis contracts are awarded. So instantly you should understand what this is trying to tell you. This is basically contract corruption here. It's opening the door to that. So in other words, instead of having to pass through the BPP, that's the Bureau of Public Procurement's guidelines for how public contracting is to be carried out, the commission has basically sole power to decide that it's going to award a 100 million naira contract to one Okeke and Sons that was registered yesterday, which is what happens in Nigeria. So that's the other thing. And then, well, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because Ibanga already explained very clearly how this is basically an offshoot of the Ruga policy, which was shut down as far back as 2016. Now, Section 71 reads that the Commission may, following public consultation by order published in the Gazette, declare an area to be a groundwater conservation area in cases where the Commission is satisfied that, in the public interest in such areas, special measures for the conservation of groundwater are necessary for the protection of A, public water supplies, B, the environment, or C, for water supplies used for agriculture, industry, or other private purposes. The Commission may impose such requirements and regulate or prohibit such conduct or activities in or in relation to groundwater conservation areas, such as the Commission may deem necessary to protect the area. I'll explain what you just heard. Essentially, what you just heard means that this commission, which this bill wants to create, has the power to declare anywhere in Nigeria as something called a groundwater conservation area, right? And where a groundwater conservation area is declared, doesn't matter if it's your father's land in the village, doesn't matter, it can be declared anywhere. This is a commission that has basically has federal government veto power to do whatever it wants. So wherever a groundwater conservation area is declared under the guise of protecting the public interest, protecting the environment, or protecting water supply for agriculture, i.e. cattle herding, this commission may then impose such requirements and regulate and prohibit and regulate or prohibit such conduct or activities in or in relation to groundwater conservation areas, such as the commission may deem necessary to protect the area, which means that where a groundwater conservation area is declared, the commission has the power to do absolutely whatever it wants with the land in that area. And I'll repeat that in case you don't understand the implication of what I just said. This commission has the power to declare your father's land in the village as groundwater conservation area based on its own sole individual opinion, right? How exactly a groundwater conservation area is determined is not stated in this bill, right? It's in the sole decision-making capacity of the commission to do that. Now, and after that land has been declared to be groundwater conservation area, this commission has the power to do anything that, I quote, it may deem necessary to protect the area, which basically means it can expropriate your land. It can take your land away from you and give it to whoever it wants or use it for whatever purpose it wants in the name of protecting a groundwater conservation area, right? So this is actually the main point of this bill. Everything else you're going to read in the bill boils down to this section 71, whose entire purpose is to expropriate land from landholding entities using the guise of groundwater conservation area, right? It's a very clever thing that the bill was called a Water Resources Act, because the majority of the bill isn't actually about water. Like in this case, for example, it says groundwater conservation area. Well, guess what? Pretty much everywhere between southern Nigeria and the middle belt, it can be a groundwater conservation area, because everywhere in those areas has groundwater. Wherever you are, if you are in the south of Nigeria right now, wherever you are, if you get a borehole dredger and you dig far enough, you run into an aquifer, you run into groundwater. So wherever you are standing on top of groundwater, basically. So it's basically anywhere in southern Nigeria or in middle belt can be a groundwater conservation area, literally anywhere. So this isn't even just about water bodies. This is literally about land, right? Because everywhere in southern Nigeria and the middle belt is a groundwater conservation area or can be a groundwater conservation area. And the only thing that makes you a groundwater conservation area or not is depending on what the commission says, whether the commission decides to classify it as that or not. Who makes the decision? Nobody knows. It's just an unelected group of bureaucrats in Abuja under this new thing called commission. You didn't elect them. I think this is the final bits that I'll close with. I think this is section 29. And I'll just read out this section. It says that the commission has the power to protect licensees from misuse of market power by other developers and service providers, to arbitrate disputes between all stakeholders, especially the licensees and other participants in the water resources sector, to receive and investigate complaints from licensees, developers and consumers and other persons in the water resources sector, to liaise with relevant national and international agencies and advise the minister on ways of promoting cooperation for effective and equitable management of transboundary waters within and outside Nigeria, to protect the interests of the public by ensuring that the provisions of this bill are carried out with due regard to public interest, and to protect water users and developers. Stop it, so somebody's mic is echoing. I think it's a banger. You took yourself off mute, right? And to protect water users and developers, as well as consumers, from unfair practices of licensees and other persons in the supply of water resources, services, and facilities. So, in other words, this commission has the power, it arrogates itself the power to do basically anything that has any relation to water in Nigeria, up to and including international boundary disputes. I'm not sure exactly how that is supposed to work, seeing as there's already an agency, I believe it's called NIMASA, that is supposed to deal with that. But again, there's this regulatory overlap, and there's just a lot of very undefined and ambiguous stuff. So this act doesn't just clash with the Land Use Act. It clashes. I've counted about 3 other acts that potentially it clashes with. No explanation is offered for how it intends to solve these legal conflicts of interest. And it's very important to note this, because where you see a piece of legislation which has not only been introduced 3 or 4 times now using all manner of subterfuge, and they're trying to pass it secretly, but it's even clashing with other legislation that is already in law, that has already been written into law, and there's no attempt to even try and rewrite it to make it coexist with other portions of the law. Then you should know that the motive behind this kind of legislation can only be a bad one. You should know that there's a hint of desperation behind this. And then finally, Section 3, it specifically states that regardless of whatever provision has been made in this bill, so in the last segment where I just read, where it said that the commission exists to protect water users and developers as well as consumers from unfair practices of licensees and other persons in the supply of water resources, services, and facilities. That clause technically could be interpreted to mean that if an itinerant herder makes unfair use of water resources, or makes unfair use of your water resources or your land, you can report it to this commission. This commission will adjudicate. However, Section 3 then basically specifies that regardless of everything we've said in this bill, cattle headers are separate. They're distinct. They're a protected entity under this bill. That nothing in this bill affects them. Like they are literally sacred cows. No pun intended. So it says, notwithstanding the provisions set out in Section 2 of this bill, but subject to regulations issued by the relevant state agency identified pursuant to Section 79 hereunder, and in overriding public interest, a person may, without a license, take water from a public source to which the public has free access for the use of his household or for watering domestic livestock. So again, everybody else gets to buy a license. You're a commercial fish farmer, a fisherman, a borehole driller, sand dredger, land developer, whatever you are, you have to buy a license from this commission. But guess what? Guess who doesn't have to buy a license? Because somebody who takes water from a water source to which the public has free access for the use of his household or for watering domestic livestock. Who does that describe? So I think at this point, there's nothing left to be said, and I'll yield the mic here.
Thank you so very much, David. That was very interesting right there. Thank you for breaking it down for us. And I don't know why these people really want to pass this bill. They just want to put everybody under bondage. I wouldn't want to hog the mic too much because we have lots of people who want to speak. But before we pass the mic around, I'll give it over to Baron, who is a lawyer, to speak a little more before Ibanga. I see your hand is up. So okay, let me let Ibanga speak before we go over to Baron. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Pearl. Now, I want to draw attention. David has provided richer context into, because he did a very robust work on this previously and before this bill was thrown out, and it's coming again. Now, I want to draw us to something very, very important. Now, there was a case between the Lagos state government and the federal government, and at that time, the Attorney General of Lagos State was the current Vice President of Nigeria. And it was in a matter that related to regulating activities or planning. And so the Supreme Court held that the power over physical planning in any state of the Federation is exclusively vested in the state government, and that the National Assembly lacks the power to legislate on physical planning outside of the Federal Capital Territory. You can imagine that the current Vice President was the one who took this case to court, and the Supreme Court is the last court, the highest court in the land, and had ruled as such. And even at that, the provisions of the laws all over Nigeria, these people are still trying to craft this law and surreptitiously want to pass it through the National Assembly and cause a constitutional conflict that would allow them take over land, take over the whole water bodies in the South. We should be very, very careful. The Vice President of Nigeria cannot claim ignorance of the ruling he got in the Supreme Court. And he can also claim ignorance of this law. He who comes to equity must come with clean hands. These people clearly have ulterior motives, and Nigerians should be very, very careful. 2023 should be a time to decide on what we want for our country. I yield the mic.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibango. Of course, Nigerians know better than to push for this. Like, look, we all know how these things work. When you have to apply for license in Nigeria for everything, we know how the process is. We know how, people have to just give it to those they know. If you don't know anybody, it will be very difficult for you to get. I'm getting DMs from people who want to request for the mic and they're not able to. If you're not able to, please do well to leave this space and return. So before I start passing the mic around real quick, let me give it over to Biron, who is a lawyer, to speak, and then we move on from there. Over to you, Biron.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Pearl. David, it's nice to hear from you. Ibanga, quite an interesting. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, please go ahead.
Yeah, quite an interesting article. You did quite a lot of work, and David, you've taken a whole lot of the part that I want to speak about this bill. I've looked at the bill. I can only sum it up with what I call state capture via regulation. So that's really what the bill is. You want to capture a state, then you create a regulation to capture the state. So what is the state? Now, if you look at I like the way they put it to the water resources bill, but then everything, as you quite rightly say, is talking about land grab. It's all about land grab. So they create a regulation to meet a particular purpose. Something worries me about this particular regulation, this particular bill, because if you start by looking at the name. You start by you go further by looking at the Water Resources Regulatory Commission. Now we all know how these bodies are set up. They are not elected. They are appointees, and there is a whole lot of power vested on the commission, which is going to oversee this bill. But because David has said quite a lot about it, I just want to say one thing. Yes, we know that the law says everything about land, all powers about land is vested with the state. Even in the Federal Capital Territory, the power of the Federal Capital Territory is vested in relation to land in the Federal Capital Territory is vested with the FCT minister. So it's not good for the regulation for the bill to actually be passed for one single reason. If it is passed and then there is a conflict between a state, if there's a state legislation and the federal legislation, the federal legislation would take preeminence. But I see this bill suffering a problem. It will have a problem with court. There is an issue about it. So it could just be interpreted that the federal government trying to regulate on interstate waters. Well, it's interstate water, but it's actually federal government trying to regulate on land, which of course Land Use Act does not give federal government the power of any land. And again, the the Supreme Court has taken decisions on those points. So, well, it's not always good to pass a regulation, and again, before it goes to court, the whole court process, because of a snail pace in the country, a lot of damage must have been done. But it's a bill that, even if it is passed, I don't see it surviving. That's quite frankly, I don't see it surviving, because I know that a whole lot of states in the southern province, the southern part of the country, will attack this bill, seriously, and the Supreme Court have to weigh in to try and interpret whether this is about regulating water or about regulating land. And once the Supreme Court can take a position that this is about regulating land or grabbing land, then because of the Supreme Court will probably rule, quite frankly, that the federal government does not have such powers. Those are the things, but it's actually a bad, regulation, a bad bill. If anybody has taken time to look at it and then think about it deeply, it has a whole lot of loopholes that could be misinterpreted, and invest a lot of power on the commission and who are this commission. And remember, what is actually clearly is this thing is that when that power is vested, the central, and who the people are appointed to regulate, it means that even your land by the side of your house, somebody can be in Abuja saying that I have a license to do that, to administer water just close to you. It's really a barrier, but I don't know how I don't know how we're going to go by. But I think this type of thing is good that it comes to public knowledge, because the Nigerian people will now see what they are faced with going into this 2023 election. Nigerian problem is more about political, and I think we all have to have the political will to disrupt the status quo, or else we're going to get deeper and deeper to our already, very bad problem. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Biron, for that. And I would like to advocate for every well meaning Nigerian to push for this bill not to see the light of the day. So I will start passing the mic around now. And from raise of hand, we have King, we have Activist, and we have AK Priest. So I'm going to start with Mr. Activist Law, then we go over to King and Priest. Over to you, Mr. Activist. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah. Good evening, and compliment of the season to every one of us. I trust we are fine. Anyways, I have perused the bill, and I've discussed particularly with a friend of mine who is a policymaker and attached to National Assembly. And I haven't discussed with him, and one of his ground for that particular bill was that since Section 1 Sub 1 of the Mineral Resources Act gave power to the federal government, the water they see there, they see water as part of the resources. Let's, like my friends have established, there have been the Supreme Court have been consistent in maintaining what should be a federal system, and how the Constitution had the intention to do so. And even going further to interpret the true intention of a federal state. You can go AG Federation versus AG Abia and AG Federation, and many other cases to give effects. Like somebody said in the issue of whether the water area within the state layer, where should it be? Is it owned by the state or by the federal government, and who should be in charge and all those things? That judgment to that effect. Now coming again and trying to emasculate the power of the state is quite worrisome. It's quite worrisome. And for me, I don't see it as just emasculating the power of the state. I see it more of people having some certain kind of mindset to conquer a particular thinking. Because they feel very well that, some people believe very well that if they can achieve this particular purpose, it will give them more ground to be able to achieve a particular end, which is not to the benefit of the Nigerian state, but rather to emasculate and bring persons at the level where they can determine what happened in your background. Now, going forward, can they pass this bill? The answer is, like you use the word clandestine. I don't think they can pass any law clandestine in Nigeria. I'm speaking from authority, and I'm speaking for the fact that no matter how bad our system is, we have not got to that stage where law can be passed clandestinely. even though the House of Rep has intention to meet the goal of today, I don't think they can consider they consider and pass a bill to that end. So it's to pass a bill in Nigeria, especially of this nature. There are a lot of controversial things you have to put into place and put to rest rather. And if you don't do them to rest, you will definitely create a problem that will be larger than life itself. So that's why it is not possible. It is my right thinking to believe very well that yes, they may have some persons who are pushing for it, that they push for the regulation of social media in Nigeria. They did so, but it never put through. So they can't do so. We will still have voices that want to make this thing happen, but it will not happen. We have outgrown those stages, sincerely, as a Nigerian state, and this is my conclusion. So there's nothing like clandestine passage of a bill. It is not going to happen. So the law has provided how you can pass a bill and how the processes and the procedure you can go through. So you can't use one day and want to do everything at the same time, and because you feel very well that you have power to do so, it will be very difficult. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Activist, for your submission. So, real quick, I'll pass the mic over to King. Beirun, would you like to respond to Mr. Activist before we go on?
Yes, it's possible to pass a bill clandestinely. It's not difficult. Nobody is saying that it won't go through the necessary process. Now, but the point is, if remember that the House majority passes a bill, so if or two-thirds passes a bill, or simple majority, depending on the circumstances of the bill. So when 10 people come into the house of a house of maybe 300 and something people, or they are able to form a quorum, and then 75% of the people there pass the bill, it's been passed clandestinely. Because if you had given, if it is not good, okay, so let me just put it in this context. This is a Christmas period. A whole lot of the legislators are not on seat. They've gone for holiday. We know it's south and north, Christian and Muslim. Most of the Christians have gone for holiday. And then you decide to pass a bill as controversial as this. It's not clear motive. It's clearly ill-intentioned. It's not because it wouldn't go through the process. But we normally call them sharp practices. On the face of it, somebody look at it that if you're doing as if you're doing it right, but you are not doing it right. You have a clear plan to achieve a purpose. For example, if this bill was put in February or in January when the house reopened after Christmas holiday, it may not go through. So the only thing you do is to put it at a time where a whole lot of people that could kick against the bill, there, and then you pass it through. That's a clandestine that they're talking about. I hope I'm able to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you,
Can you
Beirun.
cite any authority to that effect? Any law that have been passed in Nigeria, particularly at National Assembly level, please? That would drive your point home.
Yes, quite a lot. So I cannot get the name, but there's a case where I think they wanted to amend the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then they planned that the number of lawmakers that were supposed to pass the bill was not, the complete house did not. I think it was during Obasanjo time the matter went to court, and then it was there that the Supreme Court says if you want to change the constitution, you must have 75% of the entire people elected, not 75% of the lawmakers present. In that case, it was 75% of the lawmakers present that actually changed that law. But the Supreme Court said, no, you must, as far as the Constitution is concerned, you must
Which
have
law is that?
70.
Which law is that? Which provision is that? Please, I want to be very specific. When you talk about constitutional amendment, which is that it's very laborious process. Section 9 and Section 8-9, I'll talk about it. But I be a particular bill that went through clandestinely. I just want to give me one example, please.
Okay,
Okay,
Mr.
one,
Activist, please,
okay,
would you let
well,
him just finish, please?
yes,
Let
let me
Mr.
finish.
Beirun
So
finish. Do interject.
the,
Thank you.
the procedure of amending a constitution or the procedure of passing a law is laid down. When they talk about clandestinely, they are not saying that it will not go through the process. The explanation is simple, that what is the motive of trying to pass a bill during Christmas period? The motive is simple. The motive is simple. You don't have the number of elected lawmakers present in the House. I think I didn't know this question will come out. I've told you there is a part of the Constitution that was amended. I think it was 2003 or 2004, and the Supreme Court had to say no. For you to amend that part, it must not be 75% of those present. It must be 75% of the lawmakers elected. So if that case went to court, it went to court on the basis of that it was passed without the normal procedure. So these are sharp practices that happen. It's not, if you look at it, you think it's okay, but then if you interpret it on the basis of how the law is supposed to apply, then you know that there were sharp practices. Things don't go the normal way. I wish I'm able to, but if you want, I can still get the case and then we'll come back on this point later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Baron. So, Mr. Activist, if you want to learn more on that, do well to reach out to Baron in the DM because we really need to move on real quick now. So, I will pass the mic over to King and then we go over to Charity. Over to you, King.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Baron, for what you said. Thank you, David, for the introduction and deep clarity. Ibanga, thank you. I just want activists. Let me correct something that activists said, saying they can't pass. You see, when it comes to federal government, and I want to be here, I want to state things in clear terms, because this is not a southern part of the country that the target is. Southern and central part of the country. Now I'll say it in clear terms. These guys can succeed. These guys can succeed. Imagine what they did to Onoge. Now go back to history. Go back to history. When these people plan something, they stop at nothing. They always want something. Why? I don't know if there's a deficient way of thinking, or their thinking surviving on their own is not possible. But that is not the main point. The main point is to find a way of controlling the South and the Southern resources. Now, if you read the articles in the bill, I'm not a lawyer, but there's something I always knew growing up in Meduguri. There's one thing I always knew, and my dad kept emphasizing it, that entirely when these people have entire power over the South, then we are a complete slave. And this is where it's heading to. Remember the problem of Lagos versus federal government? That time that they are saying all the resource, all the water, internal waterways will belong to federal government. What that means, if you understand, and that's why I'm saying we the common Southerners need to be united at one front so that you would have a say. Don't just vote people that are after the money. No. Let's remember that everything that affects you as a grandstanding of the Southerner affect all of us. Don't think they cannot move forward and succeed. If you think like this, my brothers, you are naive. Whether you are a lawyer, or you are intelligent, or you are a doctor. If you think this way, you are naive of what these guys are capable of. Stop thinking that they are not going to achieve it, or they can't. Thank God we have the Supreme Court, and then the laws that helps us guide. And some way, somehow, when they go, then they will break their capacity, they will break their feathers, and it will come back. But must we have to wait till then? And that's why I keep encouraging, and I always post on my line. I say, Lagos, allow me to digress. I always shout, Lagosians, get your PVC. If it means wearing APC clothes and APC cap, shout as you are, hey, get the PVC. Only you know who you want to vote for. And vote wisely. Back to the matter. Please, if you remember when Abadibe was saying that there is going to be a clash between the land act, the bills for the land, and this water resources bill. And the whole target is control of the South. Control of the South. If you think it's not possible, it's not doable, My brothers and sisters, you need to you need to have a discussion with a northerner, with a northern senator, or when you have a clear understanding, you keep telling you that we're getting you. It's just time. We'll get you guys. It's just time. When they tell you these things, you begin to imagine what is in the mind of these people. Okay, let me give you an instance. There has not been any clear statement for the 40 people that were killed in Southern Kaduna. No clear statement from the federal government or the state government to even let these people know that we are with you. Rather, it's just Peter Obi, few contestants that said, even Atiku came out and said it's just disturbance. 40 lives dead, and you said it's disturbance? So I am clearly telling you, don't think these people know that what they can do with violence, processes cannot give it to them. They know. That's why they are using Connie and they are robbing the minds of all these our senators. They thank God few of the senators know the implications. But why when they say they want to pass it in a cadenza way, it's because we are on holiday. This is Christmas. Please, let's stay awake. I'm begging you, let's stay awake. Stop saying they can't. It's the way they always leave you to go to school, do all your education. The people that you're dealing with are the people that have primary school certificate and secondary school certificate in the house. You might doubt it. I am giving you core info. The people there, the people that are trying to control this, if they even form this bill, when they form this bill, the people that are going to be put in there are the core fundamentalists that is going to help them push what they want. Just like David said, there's an exemption for the headers. What does that tell you? Top tier. The priority has been top tier, the headers. Go to the ministries in Abuja, to the parastatals in Abuja. Top tier, even boundary commission, top tier. There's protection boundary commission. Have you been to Mexico-US boundary? And remember that this boundary commission, I'm rounding up now, this boundary commission are the major source where they bring in all these killer headsmen and all these atrocities that happen in our country freely. I want to yield the mic, but as I'm yielding the mic, 2023 election is coming. We can get this through federalism so that we will not have all this issue of federal government trying to control. No. Get it right. My brothers, don't say they can't. They can actually. The only thing is that it will end up in violence. And that's where we don't want it. We have lost too much. And we are looking to get it right. I yield the mic, but as I'm yielding the mic, please get it in your mind. We need to fight against it one last stand again so that it goes dead and dead forever. I yield the mic.
Thank you, King, for your submission. So, guys, we know how very important this topic is. So, do well to share this space on your timeline. Let's get more people in here to join in the conversation. And if you want to join in the conversation, you're in the audience, do well to request for the mic. I'd like to also make a special appeal to ladies here. Please do well to join in the conversation. Request for the mic and come up here because I usually like to have conversations that has a mixture of both genders. So moving on real quick, I'll pass the mic over to AK. I know I mentioned Charity earlier on, but I already took AK before. So we will go with AK before we come back to Charity. Over to you, AK. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. This bill is a very, very important bill for the South, in the sense that they are trying to take our ancestral land. For instance, the John man the John man that is survived mainly by riverine, by fish, and also the Badagarian in the Badagry that survived by fish, or the man in Agatu in Benue State that is source of livelihood is a fisherman. And also, so the truth is that you are trying to commercialize, make more revenue for your people, and also give them the access. Sometimes the access for them to do their grazing. So, the bill is just a similar thing of Ruga. A similar thing with Ruga, whereby you are thereby taking the source of livelihood southern and making it commercialized and also giving it to favor it to your own people. At the end, we end up paying for what we already have. Yeah, and to me, to be sincere, it's a thing of Nigeria because the way Nigeria was built, the way the constitution was built, it only favor a particular section of things, people. For instance, in terms of there's nothing like federal character, there's nothing like two governors. In this present government, when they even preach federal character, look at the arm shifts. Certain particular people. Look at the National Assembly, the heads, certain set of people. And right now, look at the anything that happened to South or the minority. Their body language doesn't tell that they are for all Nigerians. It tells that they are for some certain set of Nigerians. Now, some people are the majority, while some people are the minority. We can do anything. We can do anything. We don't mind that. For instance, now, if you look at the oil, the crude oil, you mind that most of the people that have the crude or the oil book are not even the indigenous or are not even the people that but that is it's already working. But this is another way they're taking to another level whereby they will take even the river after taking the crude oil. Now they want to even take the water that a Ijon man is using to fish. That's what they are doing. Likewise, that's what they are planning to do. Likewise in Agatu, what's happening in Agatu everywhere in Benue said that herdsman and fisherman used to fight every time. I remember serving in Benue. That place was not good area. No, that place was not good area because herdsman and fisherman always have these clashes. Right now, you're not trying to make it legal, whereby the fisherman will pay for it and the herdsman will. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense because the Nigeria we are having it only favors a particular set of people. It only favor so it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. That's what they are doing. That's what they are doing. To be sincere, this bill is satanic. This bill does not speak for Nigerian unity. This bill will only cause disunity. This bill will only cause anger among Nigeria. But imagine me drilling a borehole in my house. You know, I have to pay for that borehole in my community. Or I have to imagine me want to go and fish in the farm. You say that this place have been given to a commercial company whereby I have to pay a certain amount for me to fish. That's what they are trying to do. That's what Nigerian government is trying to do. And it doesn't make sense if they push unity and in their body language they are pushing disintegration. In their body language they are telling you that Nigeria belongs to a certain set with favor. And you not look at the taxing system. In the southern region are more taxed than even the northern region. If you look at the taxing system,
I'm so
to be
sorry,
sincere.
okay, do you want to round up in a minute? Please round up in a minute. Thank you.
For me, this bill, all Nigeria should just stand against this bill because this bill will only cause disunity among Nigerians. Thank you.
Thank you for. So they want to take away everything from us, including the water that God has freely blessed us with. Water, who knows what else they will want to give us? Who knows? They will start asking us to apply for license to breathe. Who knows? So real quick, I'll pass the mic over to Charity. You have to. Charity, are you there? Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I hope
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Compliment of the season. Sincerely want to appreciate David for bringing this up. I've never heard of this bill until his tweet today. And I'm trying to be very, very matured in my reaction because I'm a bit emotional. I'm an German. Grew up in the creeks, fished for survival. I mean, fishing was my primary source of survival. So I'm just imagining a situation whereby someone will ask me to pay for a certificate, to acquire a certificate, a license or whatever, before I can fish in the river Rhine. I mean, I'm just trying to be very, very balanced, so that I will not overreact. It's very emotional for me, just imagining that craziness, that thought, that's absolute wickedness that I just can't think, can't shake it off. Like, how can it be so inhuman? to your fellow humans. I will call ourselves Nigeria. If anybody have listened to Bishop Kuka's interview with Arise, you will understand the mindset of the Northern. And I'm a liberal person. I relate across board, but also I'm always very, very honest about things. Now, the mindset of any human being is influenced by his belief system. Whatever you believe controls your emotions, controls your thinking, controls your attitude. So when you have a belief system that gives you that right to enslave others, to oppress others, to always want to be dominant, to control others, it is playing out. And so this bill is clear that these guys know that they control the federal government. And because they control the federal government, once it's dispersed into law, whoever that will be in those commissions will be their people. So it is easy for them to continue to push the agenda down our throat. So it is just too evil to think that at this day and age, in 2022, people are thinking this primitive mind of occupying other people's place. These guys are emboldened because Nigeria keep looking the other way when the obvious things are going wrong. The best I can do is I was trying to look for my Senate number. I remember some time ago there was this bill that we're all mobilized to call our senators to make sure they reject the bill. I've forgotten whatever bill it was, but I'm trying to look for the tweet where I saw this number so that I can begin to call. I've even sent the bill to my family home front in Bayelsa. Like, we need to not just want to appreciate this space because any movement that starts here would definitely go down to the unthinkable places. So this is a good place to start this movement. I also want to encourage everyone that is on this space to reach out to your family because some people have never heard of this, like myself. Please reach out to other people, tell them what is happening to get across. Because if this bill is passed, I've heard the lawyer's interpretation. In Nigeria, if you want to go to court to ask for your right, you are not guaranteed of a fair hearing. If you have been the former supreme judge as a judge in such a case, that we want to protect these people's interests. So it's better to make sure this bill is not passed than to say, okay, we can go to Supreme Court to ask for interpretation and then to expunge it or whatever. So my request for everyone here that will speak is that reach out to your people, enlighten them, bring this bill to their consciousness and their awareness that this is happening, and let us do all we can to make sure that is put an end. So thank you for this, for the mic.
Thank you very much, Charity. I would like to welcome Casey on stage here. He is a renowned lawyer as well. So we have two renowned lawyers here on stage with us. We have Baron, we have Casey, and we have the two great investigative journalists who have read this article here. We have David and Mr. Ibanga Isine. Very, very great to have everyone here on this space today. So moving on real quick, and please guys, David, Mr. Ibanga, Baron, Casey, anytime you want to chip in, please feel free to interject at any point. To just feel free to interject at any time. You don't need to take my permission. You have the freedom to chip in at any time you want. So I will pass the mic over now to Tiz Glass and Lucid, and then we go over to Manny and Peter the Great. So Tiz Glass, over to you. You've got 2 minutes.
All right. Good evening, everyone, and compliment of the season. I saw that bill. That bill has been rejected severally on the floor in National Assembly. And for someone to feel that bill is not a clandestine passage they want to use for it is a wrong idea. I will give you instances. This administration, when I talk APC and the current administration for the past few years, going to 8 years now, anything that is not going, that will be detrimental to Nigerians is the thing that they do so well. There are so many bills that they have passed and it's not in the favor of Nigeria. Look at NNPC today. If they choose, they give Nigeria federal government money. If they don't choose, they don't give them any money. In fact, this year, 1 naira have not been remitted by NNPC. And we're all happy when they put in the PIA bill. We were all happy, not knowing that everything has been changed for personal favor. In my own opinion, this water bill is detrimental to Nigerians and to humanity itself. How will you tell me that you want to put in, you want to do your catfish farm, you have to go and take license, you deprive me of job, and I want to source life, then you now say I have to take license from federal government. Is that not wickedness? You deprive me of water. It is the duty of the government to give Nigerians water. You deprive me of water. I now want to go and do borehole. I will go and take license from federal government to do borehole. Is that not a wickedness of the highest order? And yet you wait until everybody have left the system and have gone for Christmas, you now want to pass a bill. Let me give you another example. Did you know that this same National Assembly want to give themselves pension and they are trying to push it for the constitution to be amended so that they can give themselves pension after they will have been collecting 36 million naira per month as allowances and salary, and yet they still want to give themselves pension? The only thing that is stopping the constitution from being put into law, the amendment, is just because of the local government autonomy. If not, they will have passed it, and now all the people in the Senate and House of Rep will collect pension for life after they will not go to work for every day and they will still collect 36 million naira plus per month. Let me tell you, this water bill, we must all fight to make sure that nothing of such happen. It is wickedness of the highest order. I have gone through the bill and everything about it is just it's against humanity, it's against us, it's against the people in the south, it's against everywhere and anywhere that there will be water located. When you look at the bill, you will discover that everything about the bill, they will not be able to, they want to put in contract. The contract will not pass through the Bureau of Public Enterprise for scrutiny. They will pass it themselves and then they will put the contract whatever amount they want and shrivel the money to themselves. Again, for it to generate money, they can generate money. They did not talk about how those money will be accounted for. Is that a bill? It's just for some people to put Nigeria into their pocket, and we must wake up and stop that bill from coming to life. Again, let me let you know that that same bill is just a quagmire for drilling corruption into our system better. So I must tell all Nigerians to wake up and ensure that we stop this bill immediately. It has to be stopped now. That bill is not in the favor of Nigeria. Let me reiterate, it's only the things that are against Nigeria, that is against the common man, that this constitution, this administration have succeeded to do. If that thing is not against Nigeria, you will see how they will be dragging this. I will give you an example. When this current Festus Keyamo wanted to employ Nigerians from the 774 local government, till today, has it worked? It never worked. But if they want to do a constitution that will make sure they collect 36 million naira, we will know when it will be signed to law and they will start collecting it. Let me tell you, this bill must be resisted. We must resist it with everything that we can. I yield the mic so that other can go ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that very passionate submission. I agree with you. Any bill that will benefit the people, I doubt it will want to pass it like this. But this one, they know it's for their own greedy benefits. It's for their own selfish interests, rather. That is why they are pushing so much to pass the bill. And I'm sorry if I'm not responding to DMs right now. It's just a little bit difficult to keep responding and, hosting the space. I will respond much later. And if there's anything you really want me to respond to right now, please do well to request for the mic and come up here. Moving on real quick, I'll pass the mic over to Lucid and then we go over to Manny. Hi, Lucid.
Hi, Mr. Pels. This is Pels. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. You've got 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Before I say my opinion about this very issue of controversial water bill, first of all, I have to ask a question. The question actually is not related to the topic at hand, but is in the same dimension with what we are talking about here. And this very question is a very controversial one, and it touches me every time I hear or people do ask that very question. And this question is this: um, the question is, why did federal government remove the railway that's actually linking south south with southeast? That's the most important one is the Aba Patakot railway. If anyone can answer the question, maybe later you request for me. Let me open my DM so you can tell me more about it. Then
Um,
for the topic at hand, I want to say my opinion. Sometimes things that do happen in this our country, sometimes it marvels me actually. I do listen to some people. They are not. I will not say they are activists, or maybe they are kind of non-state actors. Whenever they speak or their lectures, I've got to understand that this country, sometimes our system is actually mixed up. It's biased.
I don't know what happened. We lost him. Okay, then, if you're in the audience, please do well to request for the mic and come back and finish your submission. But while we wait for you, I'll pass the mic over to Manny. Hi, Manny. How you doing?
Hi, so good evening, everyone, and happy holidays to my fellow Nigerians. So the thing is, yeah, the Southerners, we are so.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Okay, Lucid, you might just want to wait a little bit. Manny, you sound a little bit muffled. Are you using any sort of listening or speaking device?
Okay.
Is this better? Is this better now?
Yes, yes, it's better. Please go ahead.
First thing first, happy holidays, fellow Nigerians, and it feels good to be here. For me, I always see a space like this as a knowledge sharing section for myself, KSS. So there's an issue on ground, and I can tell you for a fact. There was a guy, can't remember his name. He said that he grew up in Borno, and the guy was so hell bent on making sure that we get next year right. The Southerners, we are just gonna be, we will just come here, make noise, complain, and nothing will happen. I can tell you for a fact. You know, I was lucky enough to live in the northern part of Nigeria for a while. I can tell you for a fact, yeah, people making laws in this country, eh? The senators representing some of the local government or wherever in the north. Some of these guys they probably just have secondary school certificate and that's it. And these are the people making laws for those of us here down south who are so intelligent, you know, full of knowledge and everything. But at the end of the day, you just see a grown-up man, a grown-up man with so much intelligence still telling you that I want to vote APC. Like really? Really? Really, the south. I come from the southern part of Nigeria where there's good oil, and I can tell you for a fact, not a single soul. I mean, I'm saying this, not a single soul owns an oil well in that place. I come from a place in the south that I come from a place that there's so much riches, and we are living like we are living in poverty. I come from a place that we have so much oil, and yet there's no job, there's no development. I come from a place that there, we have so much, but it fucking belongs to somebody up north. And you're gonna tell, and all what we just come and do is to come and scream, we come and shout. We will not do anything. Those guys will, well, I pray that they don't pass the law, but at the end of the day, we're just gonna end here. What else are we gonna do? What else are we gonna do? We're just gonna keep nagging, keep nagging, keep nagging. This guy's gonna do something, and just do it. Down south here, we can actually come up together. 2023 election is coming. All of us, we can tell that okay, this guy is learned, is someone that can actually go up there and speak for us. But they will not. They rather just go there, sit on a fat salary, eat good food, and December time they will come down, they will come over to their villages, and we'll be so happy to see them. We will play music for them, we will dance for them, and they will now end up sharing rice, sharing oil. What a pity! What a pity! Omo, it hurts being a Nigerian. I think some of you might not understand when you come from a place that there is so much and you are living in penury. Are you the mic?
Thank you, Manny. It's very unfortunate that the lawmakers we elect to go represent us and we pay them very huge salaries. They do not pass bills that will benefit us. I really don't understand why anyone will want to come up with this, if not for their own very selfish interest. I understand how you feel, Manny. I really do understand. I will pass the mic over real quick now to okay, Lucy, you're back. Do you want to just round up your submission in like 30 seconds?
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, please go ahead.
Let me round up what I was actually saying before. This is it. The question is, why why are they really interested in passing such a bill that they know that it is at the detriment of an average Nigerian? Later people will go to our media. They will paint reasons why they should pass such a bill. Let's look deep into this. We know what is actually going on in this country. It's time for us to make the right decision. Let us come out in numbers and decide politically. These guys has been taking advantage of their numbers or the PVC of a thing, which we Satanás here, we don't really care. So this is there is another issue. We don't really care, and we are not, our unity is not as strong as those guys or at that region. That's why sometimes it seems that things are favoring the more in this country than us. So let everybody stand up now and vote wisely this time around. Nigeria is already at the it's not easy to be a Nigerian now. You people know what I'm saying. I'm leaving the mic now. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucide. I agree with you. Being a Nigerian is one of the most difficult things ever. Thanks for that submission. You see, guys, it's very important for us to have these conversations because when things like this happen and the citizenry does not talk about it, it feels like we are comfortable with it. So it's actually very, very important for us to have this conversation. We are not just here to waste time or because we have no other thing to do today. So, moving on real quick, I'll pass the mic over now to Solomon. No, before I come to you, Solomon, let's have Peter. Pelumi Ojo, how are you doing today? Hello, Pelumi, are you there? Okay, Pelumi, your hand is up, but it seems like you're not ready to speak. So I'll go over to Solomon, then we go over to LP.
The bill is
okay,
actually yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. You've got 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I would just say the bill is actually everybody. We all agree that it's not something logical to go by and all. And I'll just go to the source of things, right? Like it is. I tell folks around me and everything that it is very important for people to especially in the south, to start getting interested or politically involved. You see over there in the north, right? Their intentionality about politics is very high. Every individual in their family, their community, you must vote. But here in the south, you just find out if you ask somebody in Lagos who is representing this thing, who is representing you in your local government, who is representing federally, who is representing in the state, who is representing, they won't be able to respond. They don't know. Somebody from Ogun, somebody from Ekiti, they don't know who is representing them. But in the north, they know. They are politically savvy. They know who is. They are so intentional about these things. So all of this, we have to be like, there has to be a high political involvement amongst us in the south, because that is where the problem is. When we have the right people that are representing us, they can't be passing bills that don't make sense, or they would stand and fight for what they know is right and all. And it's also time for there should be a level of association as well. Okay, I don't know how many NGOs we have that are
actually that I'm bent on educating these people in the north as well, the media houses and all of that, because most of these people is whoever their emir or whoever their head picks for them, they just follow the bandwagon and all. So I just the most important thing is that we must get it right from the roots. It's time for Nigerians to wake up, like Southerners to wake up, get politically involved. Your child that is in Lagos, take that child home. Let that child know what is happening over there. Let that child like start knowing who is representing who and all of that. And I believe that in time we'll just be where we desire to be. So that's just my two kobo on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Kelumi. I really do appreciate that. Okay, Casey, you're unmuted. Do you want to add something to that?
Okay, yes. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you're listening from. So, yes, I've gone through the water resource bill. I went through it in 2020 when they tried passing it and it was roundly rejected by Nigerians. And also, sometimes they say they tried again to bring it in, and again Nigerians raised their voice. And I was surprised when I read again that they are trying to sneak it back in again and have it shoddily passed um, through the House of Reps. The water bill, that's water resource bill. It's an indirect means and a backyard means of state capture. I wouldn't want to name anybody or any group, but it's an indirect means of state capture. When Ruga failed in 2019, same persons and same people with the same interest try to find a way to bring in something similar but with another face, because that's my own understanding of this water resource bill. And this is the federal government trying to take away the powers of the states, especially as it concerns inland waterways, because inland waterways are supposed to be controlled by the states where those recent pass. But this is here the federal government trying to take away that power through the National Assembly. And I do tell people, especially people supporting the party at the center, that this party at the center does not believe in devolution of power. They do not believe in restructuring. They do not believe in true federalism as it ought to be. And people still supporting this same party, I don't know what to tell them at this point. If at this point Nigerians are clamoring for true federalism, GPS signal lost. They are clamoring for restructuring. They are clamoring for more powers to be devolved down to the state and to the local government. And then the federal government are trying to give themselves more powers. We are saying that the federal government, you have too much burden already. But this government trying to arrogate more powers to the center. And it's not even what will benefit everyone, but what will benefit just a particular section of the country because of their quote and unquote way of life. I don't know how many House of Rep members are remaining in Nigeria or how many that would sit at the plenary tomorrow, where this bill would be read at the floor of the House. But I think we need to know them, especially those that we can reach out to and get across to them. And those who are still in Nigeria enjoying their break but are not in Abuja, we need to talk to them to go there and make sure that this bill is roundly and flatly rejected. We know who the Speaker of the House of Representatives is and who he supports. So if he's allowing this bill to come up again, this bill that is trying to arrogate more power to the federal government, we already know where his candidate stands on restructuring. And it's something that should be roundly rejected by well-meaning and every good Nigerian. It's appalling that they tried to bring this bill back again. after being rejected twice. The change, the one I read, I've not read what they want to present at the plenary tomorrow, but the one I read in 2020 and early this year are still the same thing without any change. So that bill shouldn't go anywhere near the National Assembly for them to even read it, not to talk of considering the bill. Shouldn't go anywhere there. It's not a bill for Nigerians. It's not a bill that would push the interests of Nigerians. No. It's a sectional bill. It's a bill that deals in state capture. It's a bill that is trying to, through some backyard means, put one group over the other. Are you the marker at this point?
Okay, thank you so
Okay,
much,
thank you
Casey.
so much, Casey.
Thank you, Casey, for that. And please do hang around with us on stage to answer more questions, which I believe will come up in the course of this space. So before I move on real quick, I would like to appeal to everyone here. If you've not subscribed to West Africa Weekly, please do well to do that. I know David might not like this, but this is me begging everyone here to subscribe to West Africa Weekly, because a lot of resources are put in by David to source for materials for these articles he writes, even especially the ones he has to do a whole lot of investigations into. He has to put in a whole lot of personal resources to dig for information and to publish these articles. While the next speaker is speaking, I'm going to post something on the Jumbotron. If you want to know how you can subscribe, that will be a guide for you. Don't just subscribe. Please and please be a paid one at that, and invite your friends and family members to subscribe as well. That'd be really great. Let me pass the mic over to Biron before we go over to Solomon. Over to you, Biron.
Hi, thank you, Pers, thank you, Casey. I just wanted to add that a whole lot of people don't really I don't think we understand. This is there've been a whole lot of debate about the exclusive list and the concurrent list. The exclusive list are those lists that are legislated by the federal government. That over time, there've been an argument that the exclusive list is so congested that a whole lot of a whole lot of things that are on that list should be removed. I think they've removed electricity and a whole, other things. Now the federal government, so people can understand how, this why everybody's is a little bit jittery about this bill. Is actually putting something into the exclusive list of the federal government when they've been a great agitation that things should be removed from the exclusive list so that these things could be easily implemented or regulated on put it on the exclusive list. So if you look at where that problem is, somebody has made an argument here that water is mineral resources. I don't understand where that is coming from, because if you define it on the context that water is mineral resources, then you see why somebody could justify that can come into the exclusive list. But then we also have mineral resources that hasn't, like the mineral resources in Kaduna, that's not on the list. It belongs to Kaduna State. So our problem is power is too concentrated in the center. If you see, the government trying to put something on the exclusive list, just know that that thing is somehow not good, because once it gets into that list, the power to regulate that thing or do as it so which is concentrated on the center. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Biran, for that very valuable insight right there. We really appreciate that. Real quick, I'll pass the mic over to Solomon. After Solomon, we will have LP and then Benjamin Justice and so on and so forth. So over to you, Solomon. You've got 2 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, Piers and David, the convener of this Twitter Space meeting. I want to thank God for the privilege of coming across this meeting. I was just going through my Twitter and then I just found myself here, and I'm happy that I listened. While Mr. Charity was talking, I felt pained. I think he's emotional, but I was even more emotional, but I had to just control myself. My name is Solomon, but I'm from the north, from Plateau State precisely. And I feel quite sad that one of the things that is killing us as a nation is that when it does not touch you, you don't react. Until when it comes to your doorpost, then you expect everybody to sympathize and to feel with you. I don't believe that it must hit us in the north, in Plateau, before I feel the pain. I'm just picturing those of you from Ijoland, the riverine area, the oil is not in your control, and somebody out of wickedness, I target wickedness, sheer wickedness. Sometimes I feel that some people are even more wicked than the devil himself. That all that you sit to think about is how to mortgage people's life. Because even the Creator himself did not. He gave us in abundance, in excess. And I think that God is not foolish to have allowed every man to have access to his own resources. Now, Ms. Baron talked about some stuff in Kaduna. Nobody is saying anything. The issue in Zamfara, where terrorism is on, banditry is on the high side, gold is being mined in those areas. Nobody is talking about bringing it into the exclusive list. This is sheer wickedness. I am from the north, but I don't think that it's time for us to begin to play sentiment or tribalism or ethnicity or religious, whatever. Because if it consumes this brother today, tomorrow it will come to your turn. I feel the pain. I am just close by to a small river here, and I know the drama that sometimes we used to experience with some of these guys that come to shepherd their cattle, and some of these farmers, they plant their dry season, whatever, their maybe watermelon and stuff like that. And these guys bring in their cattle, and if you talk, it becomes even in your own land, your own fatherland, not to talk of when it becomes a law. I was just picturing how it will be that one day, even your own well, somebody will come with his cattle right in your well and deprive you and put his cows to drink your water, and you have nothing to do. I feel the pain, and I think that it's not about the South, even the North. Even the North, I'm from the Middle Belt, and I think that it's high time for us to raise our voice. We need to speak out. And it's unfortunate that the people we call our representatives are not really our representative. At least to the best of my knowledge, there are people who have gone there for their belly and their belly alone, their family members. They don't care about the destiny of this nation. And I'm sorry to say that I call upon even those of us who wherever you are coming from, I beg us. It's time for us to put our heads together. If you are from the north and you think that it's not affecting you, it will come. The Hausa man said, meaning that if you see fire consuming the beer of your brother, fetch water and put on your own. Don't wait until it comes to your turn. Lagos is not an exemption. The beach, if this law goes through, I am telling you, Lagos will be slaves. Every part of this nation will be slaves. And only a few people will rule this nation. But God forbid. Thank you for organizing this space. I yield my mic.
Solomon, thanks for your submission. Well, real quick, I'll pass the mic over to LP. And like I said, Biron, please feel free to chip in anytime you want to speak. Biron, David, and Mr. Banga, please feel free to chip in anytime you want. So LP, you've got 2 minutes. Please go ahead.
I may need more than 2 minutes because thank you anyway for letting us on this program. I'm so elated to be here with people like Baron, David, and the rest of you. You are doing a very good work. My people said, if you don't know where the rain started beating you, you will know where it will end. Now, the amalgamation took place in 1914, and by 100 years, that treaty was supposed to be over. That was why Jonathan called for the confab, which we had, to re-agree on how we are going to live. But if you read widely, you will understand that in 1941, when the European League was to procure the war against Hitler, they went to the US demanding for their support under Roosevelt. I think that was Churchill. A hidden treaty was signed for which America was demanding that the European Union should leave their African enclaves, their colonies. And then they asked for a time to pull out. And if you are thinking that by Zeke writing the pilot or by few things we got independence, a lie. It came because they had to pull out. Now, in taking that 19 years or whatever, they had to supplant it with new colonialism. I'm just trying to let you understand where the rain started beating us and then how we can handle what's coming to us. Then in 1960, we got independence and we didn't ask the kind of independence we got. By 1963, sorry, I'm not going to bore you, but if you want to follow me very well, you will understand. I'll take you to where we are right now. Having worked in the National Assembly, you know, at the early stage of my life, I can state certain things. At least I've seen some things for which I am defining this. When that happened, okay, we got independence. We were carried away by the euphoria of getting independence. We didn't ask questions. Our fathers, okay, didn't ask questions. Our fathers. Now, what happened was that we got to the point where we got the People's Constitution in 1963, which gave the autonomy or power to the regions, for which we were developing very well. The Michael Okpara, all of them were doing what they needed to do to keep their regions aflame. But what happened was that some things started being insinuated. Number one was that some machineries were employed to make Ahmad Bello believe that the Igbos, who were the most read as